I'm an entertainment journalist, so I don't go to dangerous places. I go to Hollywood. So
Pretty dangerous place.
exactly. So, but I have much respect for guys like Jay and Glenn Greenwald. Those guys investigate the truth. They go find out what's out there in the field. In the case of Jay, it's a research also for his book. Can you talk a bit about whether or not you talked with Jay prior to this project and this experience? Did it change your view about journalism?
Yeah, I did talk with Jay. I Skyped with him and I read his book and asked him some questions about his family and what it was like in Toronto and sort of why he wanted to do what he wanted to do. And yeah, it was just like in the movie where he wanted to do something with his life, and instead of just documenting napkins. So it was an important thing for him to get out there and try to change the world in some way, or he found he was passionate about democracy and realized that Somalia was a fledgling democracy, and so that was fascinating for him, and he wanted to use that drive and that passion to do something with it, essentially. But what was the other part of your question?
Did it affect your view about
About journalism? Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. That kind of journalism where you have to go to Somalia and journalists die all the time in the field, and it's terrifying. And now more than ever, I think it's important. The journalistic integrity and to maintain that and to go after the truth. And yeah, I think that's absolutely important. And I think it's much harder than just writing the article. I think, it's fascinating. I've always liked movies where you get to watch that process unfold. Because I think that's fascinating and inspiring, and makes you want to go out there and search for the truth. And, it's really impressive to see that and to see the end result.
You're coming back essentially to a familiar place here, but because of your background, your home,
Right,
and then this
right.
story is set in that sort of location or place. So, what's your impression when you first read the script or the story itself about the fact that this movie is going to tell that aspect about your homeland?
Well, before I read the script, I had, my own reaction that I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do another pirate movie. But after I read the script, I was surprised and I fell in love with it, and I thought it was a very important story to be told to finish off the Captain Phillips. All the questions that people had, I think this movie answers it, and it gives us a wider range of the culture and the pirates, who they really are, what kind of life they live in, who they are in the society, the Somali society. So I think this film explores that and show us a better view than we had in Captain Phillips, where it's just one single incident. So I thought it was great.
And I love that scene where Evan's character is freaking out, and then you're like, "It's okay, bro. Relax. You're still a reporter." Are you like that in real life? Are you more chill like that?
That's who I am normally.
I love it. I love it. Brian, let me get to you, my friend. Back to the topic of journalism. I like how that one scene where you kind of make fun of the TV corporate media, and you kind of change the wording or what they say on live TV. And that says a lot about our current situation, where it's all about reading the teleprompter. It's about the comfort of the studio setting instead of going out there. Can you talk a bit about why is it necessary for you to bring that or convey that through this movie?
Well, I mean, that's based on me talking to the BBC when I was doing a doc in Kenya, and the BBC was with us. They couldn't go into Somalia. All the insurance stuff, that was all legit. I wasn't aware of it. I was like, what? Like, you guys aren't allowed to go. There's all this crap going on. So you're like, how? And you can't tell the story. We can't tell the story unless we can go in there. So the critical thing to me was that finding, Jay, and this is before I ever knew Jay existed or anything. I was like, someone's got to go in there. Who's going to tell that story? Well, Jay ultimately is the guy, a couple years later, I'm on another film. It's like, I read his book. It's like, this is a guy who actually did that. He actually said, I'm going to do something about that and go in there. So the media right now, obviously under tremendous attack, is a critical component to telling the full story. And Hollywood is also another critical component of telling the story. But the media, they have many concerns of ratings, etc. Exactly. Right. And Jay wasn't worried about. Jay was worried about, like, ultimately he wanted to make his mark, but we need people to pursue the truth. We need people to tell us the stories, so that we can make an informed decision on whether we accept the culture or don't accept the culture, or whether we're going to do this or not. Like, we need to have that information, and education is everything right now, and the media and so therefore that piece was really a lot about that. Yeah.
But do you agree, though, unfortunately, that we're at that point in history where it's all about getting access, as opposed to holding people's feet to the fire, or accountable. Can we get back to finding the truth, or are we too far gone?
Well, net neutrality is up next week, so we'll take a look at that. So I don't really know. I mean, every week it seemed like we were getting into a deeper rabbit hole. But I think that I'm an eternal hopeful, positive person that we can get back there. I wouldn't have made this movie if I thought it was a lost cause, and if I thought that we can't get back there. I think we can. I think the pendulum swings like this, and I think that the only way the pendulum's over on this side, and it will go back the other way, and it's up for us to be, when it goes the other way, to be responsible and go back and tell these stories. Don't give in, to the temptation of money, ratings, etc., but to deliver a truthful story. This movie, I never sat there and said it's going to be the biggest blockbuster in the box office. It would have been a lot easier if harm came, or I made up stuff. People are like, why don't you just make this up? Why don't you just have them, I'm not going to give away the story. But I'm like, it didn't happen. I'm responsible as a filmmaker. It didn't happen. And I'm not going to be the guy who ruins this at this point and compromise. There's a way to make something entertaining, engaging, keep you on the edge of the seat, and it has to be that way. So everyone's responsible.
My next question is for Bryan and Evan. If you could respond real quick, what's it like working with one of my idols, one of the gods of acting, Al Pacino?
I get the mic. He's incredible. I mean, he's everything that you think he would be and more. He really, even at his age, is still incredibly dedicated. And what I learned from him, which was so cool, is that he was like, I want to do one more. Like it was to me, that was such a cool thing to be so passionate about and feeling and wanting to get it right. He also did something that was really cool that I liked, where he would touch wood before the take, before action. I don't know if you ever saw him do that, but he would always touch wood, and I go, what are you doing? And he's like, I was touching wood, and it's just something real, it's something, grounded. I like it. It's kind of like a luck thing. I don't know. It's cool. And I was like, all right, yeah, I like that. And it is interesting, it kind of just brings you back to the truth and the reality and what is real. And I don't know. It was something interesting to think about, but he was a great guy and very giving. And he was constantly thinking about the scenes and how to make them better. And like I said, working out the blocking and all sorts of different interesting things that he was always trying to make it better, not just as an actor, but as a filmmaker and a storyteller, which was I thought was really inspiring. I mean, it's Al Pacino, so it was awesome.
Yeah, you see, I think it's cool is like, we're all in different points in our careers. What was inspiring was that he cares so much at this point in his career. To mail it in would have been very easy. It is very easy. That wasn't even a question. The second part is, how do I get to another level? And he's when it's 10 degrees out and there's no one wants to be out freezing their asses off, and he's like, one more take, because I know I can do a better, like, everything matters to him. And that to me is inspiring when you meet people that care so much, and these guys are the same way, and even our, the cast that had never acted before. The reason why we're all together is because there was a real passion. So Al fit beautifully into that.
Unfortunately, is the word that we often hear. I know when I apply for jobs or try to get my articles published, there will always be rejections out there sometimes, or quite often. And so, can you tell a bit about that part of the movie that keeps showing up in your life? Maybe you could share rejections, or maybe how did you overcome it?
My life's been filled with unfortunately. It's like it is all about unfortunately. I mean, in that, and you're always like, oh, someday, I'll fight back. I'll show the world. Like, and it's so, it just sticks with you, and it's always that same word basically, and it's not really well thought out or anything. It's just that you get that rejection letter, and I mean, honestly, I'm it just happens. It's a constant, and it's always. And you say, what's the big one? I don't know. It's been constant. They happen, and then you're on a high, and then another one happens. It just and then that becomes the worst one you've ever gotten. And so it's ongoing. But the thing is that I feed off of unfortunately. I personally do. So you tell me unfortunately, and I'm going to find a way to make it fortunately. And that's it, right? Can't let it get you down. Yeah.
Barkhad, how do you handle rejections?
Well, as you grow up, you learn. But there was time that it used to get to me. But I learned to live with it. I learned to fight it, and now I love it. It's whether it's a rejection or a mistake. I see it as a lesson. I see it as a something new that I'm gonna learn, or a new obstacle that I have to go through. So. You have to appreciate that. You don't have to look at it this way. It's just another way that it wouldn't be possible. But now you have to figure out that way that will be possible. Yes.
I guess, rejection, I just think, I've had tons of it my whole life. But you got to try not to take it personally. I think that's the most important thing, is that, because once you start doing that, then you start getting down on yourself, and then you're liable to quit. So it's really about going, well, maybe most likely it wasn't me. Maybe I could have done this differently. I could have done this differently. So you critique it a little bit, but then, ultimately you have to go with your confidence and sort of just keep pushing, because maybe that person, didn't want some aspect of you or something, or didn't quite like that or whatever, but who cares? Maybe further down the line, somebody will. And, you look at Jack Nicholson, who didn't become a successful actor until he was in his 30s, I think. So it's like, you just keep going and you keep trying. And that's the thing that's cool too, is some people conform in order to try to make it and to get past the rejection. But other people stick to what's true to them and stick to what they believe. And then they become this massive thing for who they really are, and for what they really stand for, and for what they believed all along. And sometimes people are just ahead of the curve. Sometimes, people don't quite get it yet. So it's really about staying true to yourself and sticking to it despite rejection. And, it can get tough sometimes with money. What are you going to do? Are you going to conform and sell out a little bit so you can keep doing what you want to do and what you believe is right, or wait tables, or I don't know. It gets hairy and it gets tough, but ultimately I think in your gut what is right and what is true, and when something is working out and when something is not working out, and knowing when to jump ship and change it up. Long answer, a lot of different things there.
Quicksilver your way out of it.
Right.
Quickly get out of there. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Congratulations on the Pirates of Somalia.
Thank you.